Well, we've got to 9 o'clock, and I see a number of members from the House committee here. I see Senator Mullis over there, trying to join us from the Senate. They were a little bit, they hadn't been formulated yet for the lieutenant governor, so I don't know how many folks will be with us with the Senate, but allow me to go ahead and kick us off and thank everybody for coming. Dr. Hines, I'm going to move my screen again. Let me get back to the gallery. There you go. So we've got, I think, all of the members of the on the House side. Representative Douglas may be not with us just yet, but Representative Sheila Mitchell is up. Well, she's up in my top left. That's probably different on everybody else's machine, but she is new to our committee this year. Just in order down here, Chairman Matt Dubnick is with us. He is the on here by virtue of chairing the House Education Committee. Representative Watson is down here. Chairman Watson from South Georgia is down there ready to go. Chairman Nix is with us, and Chairman Senator Jeff Mullis is on there. So we're looking to go. And Dr. Hines, I'll flip it to you at this point if you want to introduce the folks that you have with us, and then come back to me just real quickly, and we'll kind of set the stage and the time, and then get moving. How does that sound?
Well, that sounds good, but I did something and I lost everybody.
Try to click on your view up there. Click view and gallery, and you may get everybody back.
View and gallery. Well, it's like a Zoom app is what I'm seeing.
Oh, you may be back to you probably have a different well, you've still got us open, so maybe a control or alt tab. An alt tab, yeah, I think it's alt tab through your applications, and you may get back to the gallery.
Well,
we can, and nonetheless we can hear you fine. So
yeah, what I think I have here is Glenn White, the president.
I see Glenn waving.
Kurt Miller is the vice president. Jim Finch is a committee member, longtime executive committee member. I believe Don Core is on. I didn't see Ernie. I don't know if Ernie is there. I've got Steve Figueroa, who is our media person in the office, in my office with me, and Kara Wright, who is our compliance officer, and he does eligibility as well. Did I miss anybody?
Dr. Kraft's on as well.
Yeah, Stephen Kraft is
county
trustee as well, serves on the committee.
Got Jasper Jewell too.
Sorry?
Got Jasper Jewell too.
Okay, Jasper's on.
Yeah, I'm on. My camera's acting up this morning, but I'm on.
Well, mine was earlier, Jasper, and then it started working. So now everybody's stuck looking at me. So we're working better. Well, listen, let's go ahead and get started again. We'll try to keep it, to an hour or so, just because I know people. Representative Douglas just joined us as well. So we've got the full House complement here, along with Senator Mullis. We may have some other senators join, but we'll try to keep it to an hour just because it's Thanksgiving week and to start a conversation. Dr. Hines, I kind of listed, and I suspect you share. We had a number of things that we want to talk about that I got from talking to the House members just in a little roundtable the other day. Regional alignment, the official quality compensation and retention, general operation during the playoffs, financials, governance, and transparency. One of the things I want to add here, I guess it goes into operations during the playoffs, is just talk about the digital tickets and how that contract came about. It seems to be causing some consternation at some schools, but let's focus on the regional alignment, the timing of all of that, how that happens, and let me lay the basis here for I haven't talked to, I've talked to Dr. Kraft briefly and talked to the members. The frustration that I am getting feedback from members of the House is we seem to go through this every, if not every year, certainly every 2 years during the realignment process. There's a new multiplier, there's a change in this, there's a something there, and it's all done, late summer when you're coming around into realignment and people don't have time to react. There can be a difference of opinion on a subjective thing of was the multiplier right to go up or not. That's absolutely subjective. What is frustrating to our members and what I want to communicate is the process, the policy of it all. I mean, if there was, it just looks like a last minute decision that people don't get. So if you could talk to us about that. I see in the bylaws, I'm going to leave it open to you and then I can come back with questions rather than to ask leading ones. But the changes that were made that facilitated changes in region realignment, that caused so many people to have to, come down for an appeal. I mean, even in the bylaws, it leaves 19 to 21% of each. I mean, in the bylaw, 19 to 21% of each classification at the discretion of the reclassification committee. How many people are on the reclassification committee?
18.
Okay, so you have 18 people that are doing 20% of 70%. So you have 18 people that are affecting the outcome of up to almost 20% of the high schools, 80 high schools in Georgia. Your bylaws set forth, come and ask of us, and you shall receive. I mean, that policy in and of itself gives people pause. So, take us through that. And then, as part of that, you have region realignments, and I know it's done based on distance. You have region realignments in some classifications. You have 11 regions, you have 11 people in regions, they get 4 playoff spots. You have 5 people in regions, they get 4 playoff spots. How is that a level playing field for these student athletes? So
Well, a lot
from there.
Well, first I'll start at the beginning, with the first thing that you asked. It's not a surprise for anybody. What they're doing is realigning for not this year, but next year. And the process starts, there's a 2-year cycle. And, the first year you go through, when the second year comes around, that's when you go through the process that you can see in the bylaws. And it begins to start, as you said, in the late summer and works through the fall with a goal of trying to be done prior to Christmas, because the schools need to go and once the regional alignments are set, they begin to contract their games, because you can't contract until your regions have been ratified. And there are different numbers of schools in regions just simply for geography. And when the alignment happens, that's how it happens, is due to geography.
Okay, but do you agree that it's a fair situation to have regions with 5 people, get 80% of the teams make a playoff, then you have a region where you have 11 teams in it and 30% of the people make a playoff?
I think that when you have the number of classifications that we have, 7 classifications, and in single A 2 classifications, it's hard to fill regions with 8, 9, 10 teams per region. You're going to have some small regions due to the number of classifications.
Okay, I'm going to ask the question again. Do you think it's fair that 80% of the teams in one region make the playoffs and 30% of the teams in the other? You literally can have a team that has a 1-9 record in the playoffs.
There's a lot of them that are 1-9 and 2-8 that are in the playoffs, because there's a lot. You've got 4 playoff positions per, and when you have so many classifications, that's just going to be the nature of the beast.
Is it the nature of the beast that 4 teams have to make the playoffs out of a 5-team region and 4 teams make out a playoffs out of an 11-team region? I mean, in one region, in one classification, you have 60 teams. you have 32 playoff spots. That's roughly a half a playoff spot per team. So, I mean, if you took that to its fullest, you'd 2.5 playoff spots for a 5-team region, round up to 3, 5.5 playoff spots for a 11-team region. I mean, you could round down to 5. I just, how do you sit? And then there's been places in the past where there were actually 4-team regions that had 4 teams make the playoffs. How is this equitable?
Well, I'll give you an example. When you get in Southwest Georgia or Southeast Georgia and Southwest Georgia in 1-7A, those have been 4-team regions. We do our best to avoid 4-team regions, obviously, but sometimes when you go and you look at the maps, because of the distance of travel that is required, it's difficult to add more teams in there. I mean, it's geography.
Okay, I mean, again, I guess I'm not making my point. So set the regions up, but balance the playoff opportunity per region. I mean, this is just a question. I mean, how is that not a consideration?
I don't know. Does anybody else want to jump in there? You may have some ideas. Reclass committee.
Yes, I would like to jump in, and I want to use the AAA region in Northwest Georgia because we had that set up at 9, I believe it was, Dr. Hines. And then we had other schools want to come into this region because geographically it was close to them. But we had it set up to 9 to start with. They petitioned, they appealed to come into the region by choice, and the committee agreed to let them come into the region. And it ties into the geography of Northwest Georgia. And if you look at those schools in that AAA region, they do fit there. And you're right, Representative Martin, they are 4 playoff spots. But I think if I'm gonna go back to those schools wanting to come into the region, they knew there were 9 schools before they asked to come in. So they knew that before they made that request to come into the region. So I think that was done by choice on their part. And I also think it is done because of geography and travel. Those factors played into that. And so I think it's because of the demographics and the population of the state of Georgia sometimes dictates how many schools you have in a region.
Okay, again, I'm not questioning the region makeup. I mean, I do question that in some places, but more the classification level. But my question is, if you're trying to provide an equitable opportunity for quality teams to make the playoffs, how do you justify having a 30% shot at making the playoffs if you happen to be in region? I'm just opening up my thing here down to 8 quad A, and in 1 quad A and I guess 7 quad A, there's 5 teams and 6 teams. In one place there's 80% chance making playoffs when you kick off in August. Another place there's 30%. I mean, why not have give everybody 3 and have an at-large position? Or I mean, I just don't see the equity in it.
Well, in order to do that, you would have to power rank all of the schools. And that has shown.
No, you with respect, you wouldn't. You just move a playoff spot from, where you got a 3 out of 5 chance to make it. That's still 60%. And then you got a, 5 out of 11 chance, which is 45. You still, the 11-team region is a lower opportunity. I'm just, you guys, we're not in any position to require you to change that today. But when people ask, I have a hard explaining it. So I'm just trying to figure how that's been. I mean, I've wondered about it for decades, that you have a 4-team region and everybody's in the playoffs. You have an 11-team region, only 4 teams. Playoffs a big deal. I mean, it's money for the schools, it's opportunity for the student athletes. I mean, we won't belabor. I mean, we're trying to keep it to an hour, so I mean, we won't belabor that point if none of the the other people have a question about it. But that people need to play up in Northwest Georgia. You mentioned Coach, that people ask into that region, the fact that they ask in, I'm glad, it worked out from a travel. I mean, Chairman Mullis, you're up that way. I mean, the hills and the mountains, I mean, 50 miles as the crow flies, maybe 100 miles to drive. That's a good thing, but should they be put at a disadvantage? The teams that were in the region, y'all let 2 more in, that's good for travel. It's good for the kids. Shouldn't there be some sort of an equity in playoff opportunity?
Well, look, I've got a bad computer problem today, but I've heard from all of my schools, small schools mainly, and none of them are happy. In fact, they're just damn mad. So am I. So I would suggest y'all, we reluctantly go forward in this change because it's just going to create havoc for all of us. And then we'll have to deal with y'all. And I would regret that. I would hope that y'all would just decide to leave it alone and do something differently, because I just don't think it's a good change. Is my opinion.
Anybody else?
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir. Sam.
Sam Watson. Yeah, I'll just chime in. I'm down in Colquitt County, and in our region, I mean, we've got a lot of travel, and if alignment is based on geography, it seems like I went through the mileage, and there's 1, 2, 7A, there's schools in 6A and some in 5A, and they're traveling well over 100 miles to play an opponent. And I know that has a financial burden on our schools. And used to, when I played ball, we played different communities close by to us, and communities were together and they supported each other. And even in 7A, that region 1 right there with all the South Georgia schools, nobody else in that region has the same mileage distance that we have. And that makes it tough on the kids. It makes it tough on families. It makes it tough, on the school system to have to pay for that.
And just the safety aspect alone of young people driving that far, and they're going to find teams.
I mean, I don't have the answer, so I don't know what it is, but we got to, even from we do a lot of work right now at the Capitol on economic development for rural Georgia, and putting some of these communities back together is economic development. It helps these communities, and having to travel 185 miles to play any kind of ball game is tough. And I guess, why do we have 7 classifications, and what brought that about? What's the, I guess, scenario on that?
I'll let other people chime in there. I think it was to create more championship opportunities, Sam, to tell you the truth. I mean, these guys, that are with us on there, they know how I feel about it, but, I'm an employee. I think that less classifications are better, because if we did that, we could have more schools in there. But, like where you are in Colquitt County, and I know I've been there. I coached there at one time. There's going to be some travel down in that southern part. As far as large schools, there's just not a lot of large schools down there. And, the only way that you're going to increase that is you have a reduction in classifications where you could capture, more of the schools. Like, for instance, Tifton has been traditionally in that region. They're not in that region anymore. They're out, and Richmond Hill came in, and Valdosta came in, which has traditionally been in that region before. So there are more teams in that region, more games than there has been in the past, but unfortunately it has not helped the travel.
Chairman Martin, if I could, and Sam,
Yes, sir.
when you're done, Sam, when you're done.
Yeah, go ahead. I just, and just looking at some of the numbers, I just, there again, I'm going, if Colquitt County's 24-94, and I don't, obviously I'm probably talking outside of my knowledge, but I mean, I see schools in here that are 18-36 that are in 7A. I mean, what makes a school that's 2,400 different than 2,300 or 2,200? I mean, who gets to make that decision? All right, you're going up and you're going down at at that point? Who decided that? And
In
why?
7A, it's been approximately 10% of the schools have played in 7A. And I believe the number that was initially done, it was 10.38% of the schools were in 7A. And it's wherever that number lies. It's a percentage. It's not a specific number that places. It's a percentage of schools.
And to answer your question about why would someone with 1,800 be up there, it's because there is a 3.0 multiplier for the out of zone kids. So if you have a lot of out of zone students, that's going to bump you up. And, you know, one thing that we've talked about a lot on this committee with the 7 classifications going back to 6, you go back to 6, you can improve travel, but you're also going to have a greater disparity between the number of students that attend the higher end schools. When you look at the Gwinnett schools, you know, they go up to close to 4,000. And, you know, that top end classification, you could have 4,000 kids going against a school that has 21, roughly double of them. And that, you know, that's a tough amount right there to deal with from
Well, and I understand that, but I guess I also go, you know, here in the bylaws at reclassification under 4.22, reclassification committee may utilize the following factors in reclassification decision. And the first one is travel time costs plus time out of school for students. That's the first thing on the list that should decide reclassification is travel. So is it about the students in the school or is it about travel?
Mr. Chairman, may I make a comment?
Sure.
Very respectfully, sir, from my perspective, it's always about our students. But I'm going to give you a little bit of history on why we're at 7. This goes back, and I've been on the committee 28 years, but it goes back to trying to balance the playing field so all schools have a chance to be successful. And that's why we're at 7. When I first started this, we were at 4. We had 4 classifications and we broke that out by percentages. But we're at 7 because we feel like at that time, it offered a better opportunity for students and schools to make the playoffs and have success. So that's how we've evolved to 7. And that's been over a period of time. But yes, you're right. The travel and distance is part of that. If we reduce the number of classifications, you're going to have less number of teams in the playoffs and less state championships. So that's where that came from. Once again, that's evolved over the last 25 years, I would estimate.
So
I'm
let me follow up, Sam, just for a second here, and I'll come right back to you. So you agree making the playoffs is a big deal, but you're okay with 4 coming out of an 11-team region and 4 coming out of a 5-team region?
Yes, I agreed to that. I voted for that inside the reclassification committee, and that was based off of geography. And
no, putting them in the region is based off geography. The decision to have an inequitable percentage of teams that come out of a region is something you guys decide.
The top 4 teams come out of that region, and all of our regions, the top 4 teams will come out into the playoffs.
Because you guys decide that.
As far as who makes the playoffs, that's done by region play.
No, but you guys decide that 4 teams do it out of each region, regardless of size.
Yes, that's
equitable.
Yes, sir.
Okay, that's all I need. Sam, we'll let Sam finish, then we'll come to you, Chairman Dubnick.
Yeah, I'll just close. I appreciate the comments. I don't know that I agree that having an equitable chance traveling 185 miles, you know, to Atlanta is leveling the playing field much. But also know we've got an official shortage, and I mean I won't think to be competitive and people to win, but you know, life's tough too, and have to work hard and play hard. And maybe that's something to consider going forward with an official shortage, that maybe we don't need 7 classifications.
Okay, Chairman Dubnick.
Hey, good morning. My name's Matt Dubnick. I'm chair of the House Education Committee. I appreciate the job that all of you do with GHSA. I'm assuming, like everybody on here, I enjoyed high school athletics. And I played hard. To Sam's point, we got our butts kicked, and I learned a lot of lessons in life. And to the committee members' comment about being there 28 years, yeah, I was in high school then, and we had 4 classifications. And, you know, I live in Gainesville and Hall County. And I remember when our schools here, to Sam's point, you played neighboring communities. I played in Region 8A North, and we played all my favorite local county opponents. Our furthest drive was going across the mountains that the good Lord built and going to Blairsville and Hiawassee, and those were our furthest drives. I will, but guys, I've got to be honest, and I'm going to echo Chairman Mullis's comments, and he used a very kind 4-letter word. I mean, we're getting beat over the head. And we are hearing across the board. And Sam said it best. Guys, I hate to be the one to cast the stone at the glass house, because I do truly, in the bottom of my heart, respect the job that y'all do. And I think, like Sam said, if we had a plan or something that worked, we wouldn't be sitting here. We'd be, you know, all looking at a PowerPoint or a map. But every 10 years, we're charged with redistricting 180 House districts, 56 Senate districts, and currently 14 congressional districts. We've done it. We've passed the merit and the muster of the court system in 2011, and we drew these maps that are fair and right and appropriate, and they're going to pass the court test again. But ultimately, our job is to answer to our constituents, and Chairman Mullis put it best. And look, I'm not telling y'all anything new. My children go to the same school that I graduated from, and my school sent an email announcing their departure, along with countless other single A private schools, from GHSA. Now, I don't have to belabor or beat that point up, but that frustrates me as a parent, and someone who is still very involved in my community and with my school. So I hope and pray that Chairman Mullis's comment and Chairman Watson's comments, that if this is a box that you're checking to be here today to listen to us, and we go on about our business, well, so be it. I hope you hear us loud and clear, that we are hearing loud and clear, not from 2 people over a cup of coffee. That this is a big deal to us. And I agree with Sam. I looked, Rabun County and Thomasville playing in the playoffs. Great. It's the playoffs. Let's go make it happen. But when Sam talks about coming up, you know, near Atlanta for a game on a Friday night, when I'm talking to him, there's just something that feels like Colquitt County and, you know, Metro Atlanta, or my school playing in, you know, on the other side of I-75. You can't go from east of 85 to west of 75 for a 5:30 basketball game, or barely a 7 or 7:30 kickoff. So Chairman Martin, I'll shut up. I've said enough. I think I've made my point. But I leave you all with a thought. I don't envy your job, and I surely wouldn't want to be sitting on the other side of legislators saying things like this to me, but we got to come up with something to do, period. Thank you, Chairman Martin.
Yes, sir.
Chairman Martin,
Yes, sir.
I just wanted to add to the 7-class discussion that 2 years ago, we did survey our member schools, and I want to say it was 70% to 30% that the schools favored the 7 classifications. Going into this reclass, the Board of Trustees reached out to the representatives in their classifications, and it was still majority that the schools wanted to stay 7 classifications, knowing the impacts and implications of the travel and the size of the regions. I just wanted to add that to the discussion.
And I'll add this, you know, Chairman Duke mentioned this, but we just got through with reapportionment, and we've got colleagues that they wanted to stay in the House, but they're not going to get to, because that was what was best for our state and the people in our state. And they're not going to be back with us after this next legislative session.
Okay. I want to wind up, and we got Chairman next. He may have had to step away. Representative Nelson, you have anything you want to add? I know you're new to our committee, and also Representative Douglas, I think is on the phone, but either one of y'all want to add to this discussion around the realignment process?
Yes, thank you, Chairman Martin. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
I would say after reviewing the document packet that we have, it is some serious and major concern, and I think this issue needs to be relooked at, revisited, and see what's best for everyone.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Representative Douglas, you have anything? You're on mute if you're talking to us.
I think I'm in here now. Can you hear me now?
There you go. Yes, sir.
All right. Like I said before, I've been on this committee for a while now, and it seems like the same old thing. We get on here and voice our opinions, but they're not being heard, and they just go on about the business. So as I took a privilege today, Chairman Martin, to just listen. And we hadn't got any answers. We just keep getting excuses. And so I agree with everything that's been said. I don't think it's fair. So I think we need to take the appropriate actions to move forward on what we need to do. Thank you.
Thank you. Chairman Mullis, do you have anything you want to add? We'll wind up this one and go to the next items.
No, again, just thank you for having us today and for us to at least talk it over. I know that, as you put it, the redistricting process is tough. So what you do is kind of somewhat related to that. And my complaint is putting private and public back together, and I hope you don't do that. Look, y'all talked about the number of the classifications you have. I remember when we had a B classification. So that's how old I am. So I hope that we can all come together and work something out. And I look forward to moving forward with everybody in that regard. And I appreciate the comments. And Dr. Hines, thank you for you and your staff, what you do. Again, we tried to leave you alone, so please keep it that way so we can leave you alone.
We would like that.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, well, I mean, Dr. Hines, I'll be honest with you, I'd like it too. I've spent more time listening to people because I think it's meaningful. And, you know, I'm gonna wind up this part, and we're not finished with it yet, but you have in your bylaws certain objective things you go with, and then everybody's coming back to the reclassification committee, you know, to ask them for something. And I, for one, don't think it's a good idea when you have so many people that have to come back for an ask. I mean, that tells me you're not even taking a shot at getting it right the first time. I'm looking here at the private schools that moved into AA. All but one of them don't play football, and yet I'm aware of some, you know, a school that tried to get into AA. You know, I don't agree with your multiplier. Chairman Mullis and I might be on different sides of that, but that's a subjective thing. I've expressed my opinion, and y'all made your call. But then when you applied it to not allow a school to move where their multiplier said they would be, is really, really hard to understand. And it looks a lot like you're just managing classifications subjectively, not necessarily in the best interest of people. And so I think there's going to be, you know, further discussion around that. But in order to keep us to an hour here, let's move. I know this is near and dear to Chairman Watson's heart on the official. I guess the official quality is subjective, but I think it's pretty clear that the worry about the quality because of the quantity of gains you have, but and the labor shortage in general. But, you know, tell us what, since we met last, about the official quality compensation retention, you know, what's going on there to try to help that be better, faster, stronger.
But the officials, quality of officiating, we offer officiating development camps. It's ongoing. There's training and education in football, basketball, baseball, softball, volleyball, cheer, and soccer. And those camps provide two 2 levels of training, and that's up to the official themselves. You have to go to 1 camp every other year if you're going to be varsity level. If you have to go to a camp every year if you're going to be in the postseason. Okay, we've also designated officiating liaisons in each sport. Those liaisons work with the respective GHSA staff and sport coordinators to schedule evaluations throughout the season and assist the ranking and placement for postseason officiating assignments. As a National Federation of High Schools 100% state, we also have access to the Center for Officiating Services that offers countless training and education tools at no cost to GHSA registered contest officials. As far as compensation is concerned, in conjunction with the reclassification cycle, that's when we look at it, the officiating game fee structure is reviewed and a fee increase is presented to the executive committee for approval. An increase in officiating game fees was approved this fall at the executive committee meeting for the new cycle beginning in 22-23. As a member of the NFHS Section 3, the GHSA officiating game fees rank at the top of all sports, for the regular season and postseason contests. As far as recruiting and retention, we've had an aggressive officiating recruiting program through many different measures. Become an official through the NFHS, GHSA's playing for another team, GHSA member school career days. We send people to career days, new official scholarship program, and the GHSA development camp scholarship program are programs designed to recruit new officials. And we're trying to target those seniors that are graduating to get them in it. But like everything else, COVID certainly had a negative effect on the retention of registered officials, but we've come back. Through the fall and winter periods, numbers are starting to build back up. It had a negative impact of 12% in overall officiating registrations. But the overall concern at this time is the influx of new officials not keeping up with the retirement of veteran officials. There's a national concern, and I will say that we've been more fortunate than most throughout the country. But the value of our contest officials is recognized through the following programs. We have multi-sport reduced GHSA registration fees. And by the way, I think we've gone up $5 in our registration fee in the last 30 years. Something like that. It's been a long time. We have multi-sport officials, Triple Crown, Grand Slam, and 5-star certificates, as far as recognition programs for them. We have mentoring scholarships and the annual Crusader for the Cause and officiating recognition. That will be done in the spring committee meeting. Officials Advisory Committee, we have an advisory committee, which is an ad hoc committee that meets twice annually to discuss the current issues and concerns in GHSA officiating. The committee is comprised of an individual from each sport for the North and South regions of the state, as well as a representative from the executive committee and 2 at-large members. The committee members are diverse in gender and race, and this committee may make recommendations for proposals to be presented in the spring and fall meetings. So in a nutshell, that's GHSA officiating overview.
Sam, did you want to raise a couple of things that you had mentioned before?
Yeah, just to start, maybe finish with that. On the officials committee, you said there was a representative of each sport. Are any of them officials? Are they practicing active officials?
Yes.
How many?
I don't know off the top of my head. It's a pretty large committee, but most of them are.
Okay. If you could find out, I'm just curious. We passed a resolution a couple of years ago after we heard about this issue, and obviously it's been another complaint that we've had that folks have had to cancel games, move games, quality goes down, and I guess at the end of the day, I'm trying to understand, if you want to be an official, why you have to pay a registration fee, why you're charged to go be trained. and why is it, I just can't understand it. And why, I guess the schools pay for officiating most of the season and then the playoffs. I know there's been comments that y'all lose money on officials. In the past, we've talked about this. But I know from the official side, I know they felt like they haven't been represented properly. But I guess maybe touch on that to start, and what is I guess what was the increase that was made as well in pay?
Increase. I would have to. Do you have the? Well, no, it's an across the board increase, and all I can tell you is that our officials' pay is better than most. I don't have the comparative data, with me. Ernie is out of the country, and he has all of that. But as far as there are costs that are associated with officials. We have to pay people to do the evaluations. We have to pay people that put together those crews and those type of things. It's not a free deal, that we can do. We keep the cost down for officials, and I just went through a litany of things that we're doing to try to bring new officials in, as far as scholarship opportunities and camp scholarship opportunities and all of those type of things. So.
But you don't think that should be a part of what the schools have to pay? I mean, if they're on, why should an official have to pay his own way, I guess?
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you. I can't hear you, Sam.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
I guess I'm just trying to understand why an official has to pay. I know there's expenses with that, but they're kind of volunteers. They've taken time out of their lives to do this, and yeah, they get paid, but I guess I'm just trying to understand why they have to pay their own way. Why should I have to pay to be? It just seems like a discouragement. Oh, I want to be an official, but I got to pay for this, and I got to pay for this, and I got to pay for that. And then if I pay for all this, then they'll teach me and allow me to do it. Instead of, if you want to be an official, we'll train you, we'll teach you. That's what I do with my people. I train them, I teach them, and they learn a trade, and they make money, and they help me. And I don't charge them to work here.
Well, there are costs associated with those services, and I believe our officials, the registration for an official is $37. And I've got the game fee chart here, and I'll just go through it for you. Baseball, crew of 2 is $75 each. That's an increase of $5. Crew of 3 is $65, which is an increase of $5. Sub varsity is $60, which is an increase of $3. State playoffs has gone for the first 3 rounds from $115 per to $125 per. Semis and finals has gone from $125 per to $135. Basketball, crew of 3 is $67, a $5 increase. Sub varsity is $54 a game. That's a $4 increase. In the playoffs, first 3 rounds, $160 each. That's an increase of $10. Semifinals and finals is.
Dr. Hine, in the interest of time, maybe just send that to us. We get the deal. I think I understand what you're saying there, and if I heard you correctly, I think you said basketball, a crew of 3 was $65
per game, correct?
Per game, and
$67.
Is that normally a situation where in basketball they'll do 2? They'll do a varsity and a ladies and a men's game.
Yes.
Same crew.
Yes.
What I think this is just a reality. I'm going to drill in on what Sam said. It's the cost of doing business. But in Metro Atlanta, if you have to drive somewhere to do in a traffic, and you're talking about an hour there, you're there for 3-4 hours for 2 basketball games and an hour home. When you take that out and divide it, it's $130 to take 5-6 hours out of people's time. We're not getting there. not your fault, my fault, nobody's fault, but I think that's just a reality of it's harder to come by those officials. It's a cost of doing business that maybe we can talk to you guys about or provide additional support. I mean, you're right, the money has to be there, but I think when you look at the drive you have, the cost of, mileage, gasoline, I mean, it's just a tough thing that, I mean, I used to, 30 years ago, I used to get paid $45 for doing a 15-16 summer league baseball game. $45 to do a single baseball game, and you're paying, what was it, $115 for a high school game now? I mean, that's less than double 25, 30 years later. It's just you're getting kind of salary crunched, kind of salary compression there, I think is what Chairman Watson's talking about.
And final
We
question.
do
here,
pay
Mr.
travel
Chairman.
also.
Final Chairman,
Okay.
Dr. Hines, did you receive a raise this year in assistant executive directors and associate directors?
Yes.
Was it more than $5, or how did it compare to the raise for the officials?
I hadn't done the percentage there, but it's percentage wise, it's probably similar.
Okay.
All right, so we'll get did any of the members wish to talk about that, or can we hold that conversation till we get the fee schedule from
The fee schedule is online. It's Appendix
Okay.
F. on
Okay, everybody.
GHSA.net.
everybody hear that we'll get that out to you. He said Appendix F. Thank you, Dr. Hines. That's good. Going operations of the playoffs, I guess this kind of came up, and other folks may want to drill down that further, but can somebody tell me about this digital tickets that are being required for Georgia high school games now, and the fact that it has to be done through a particular company, and what that company's revenue is from that contract? Because I'm told it has to be done, that the schools can't do it themselves. They have to go through the Georgia high school approved vendor, and that's a single vendor. Can somebody?
We have a contract with GoFan, which is a
Okay.
digital ticketing format. And,
Okay.
and when in the playoffs, if they use a digital ticketing format, it has to be through GoFan. And that is correct,
Why is that?
because that is our official vendor of digital ticketing.
How was
The
that
way that
determined?
the way that we're structured is the regular season belongs to the schools, the playoffs belong to the GHSA for the association. And digital ticketing has certainly been a blessing. It was really good for us, through COVID, really did well as far as that goes. And the schools actually benefit from that as well. It's no different than using Ticketmaster when you go to events and that sort of thing. It's just cheaper.
Well, I mean, how much does the contract award the company?
Award the association?
No, how much does it award whoever this is, GoFan.net or whatever?
I'm sorry, I didn't understand the question.
How much, what's the charge to, if I'm going to a playoff game and buying a ticket, how much does GoFan, do they get it on a per ticket basis, that a per school basis, per
Yeah, I
game?
think the convenience fee is $1.40. And
$1.40.
through that $1.40, the school receives a portion as well as the association. And we always have paper tickets on hand as well for those that are technologically not smartphone.
What does GoFan get from this? That's what I mean. How much is this contract worth to this company?
It's a per ticket charge.
Okay, I mean,
I don't know what it depends on how many tickets are sold.
okay, how was that contract awarded?
Well, we do that through the NFHS. It's part of the NFHS network, the National Federation of High Schools.
Okay, so, all right, well, that's for drill down later. So they do just then have a monopoly on playoff games.
Well, that's who our vendor is.
I understand, but I mean, they have a monopoly because somebody decided that's the way you go. I mean, there just seems the pricing issue, but all right. Well, so then the rest of the question that we had, and I can't remember who on the committee, brought this up, but it was around, the availability. I believe it was you, Representative Nelson, that you talked about the availability of tickets to a playoff game you had gone to, and you weren't able to get access to them to a certain period of time. I don't recall, was that a regular season game or a playoff game? But I now recall it was Representative Nelson that brought that up, correct?
It was basketball season, the playoff games, where the tickets were not distributed fair to both of the schools. The home school had advantage. The visiting school, and this happened on more than one occasion this past basketball playoff season, where the visiting team had to take a chance and ride 2 to 3 hours in hopes of getting a ticket to get in. And then I also went to another basketball playoff game this past season. Ticket prices were different. Who sets the ticket prices for the exact same game? And I think I talked to you about that, Dr. Hines. That was very—
I believe you talked with Ernie about that, and there was a mistake on the ticket price, and we corrected it. And I think that was done at the school. The school did that, and they weren't supposed to do that, and it was corrected.
Now, when you say corrected, I mean, how was it corrected? Was refunds given to people that was overcharged, or?
You would, yeah, I think that they were. I think that was offered. But
it was never offered to me, and I was overcharged. I bought 9 tickets and I was overcharged.
Well, you spoke with Ernie Yarborough about that, and as I said, he's not here, and I can't answer that.
But then also, like you said, when you got a home and a visiting team, what's fair when the home team gets to purchase the majority of the tickets?
Well, that's not fair. They're supposed to be 50% for each school.
It was not like that twice this past basketball season. And I think I brought that up also when we talked, because I felt like if a team has got to ride from Augusta for 2.5 hours and hope that they can buy a ticket when they get there, it goes back to the GoFan tender. Who's selling tickets? Is GoFan selling tickets where everybody has a chance, or do the visitors have to make that 2.5 hour ride and hope they get a ticket at the booth?
Well, GoFan tickets are available, and there are school-specific codes that people can purchase their tickets through the GoFan platform.
So do the schools get to decide, or the GHSA decide who sells tickets and how you sell them?
If digital ticketing is offered, it has to be through the GoFan platform, but schools may have paper tickets on site to sell for those that can't get one. Like, for instance, we're preparing for football playoffs and the state championships. We will have paper tickets as well as GoFan for those that want to purchase a ticket at the gate.
I think that's not quite answering my question. For the basketball game that I wanted to go to, I was 1.5 hours away. They could not. Who decides whether or not they're going to use GoFan or whether or not I got to buy my ticket in person? That's what I'm asking.
What?
She does. She wants to know
Who decides on how you buy your ticket?
Yes. Who decides whether it's going to be GoFan or I have to buy my ticket upon arrival?
Well, GoFan should be offered at all playoff venues.
It was not.
Well, I'm
3
sorry
different
about
basketball playoffs.
Yeah, I couldn't answer that because.
And I think Dr. Hines, I think Representative's talking about something where there may have been capacity controls due to still the ongoing pandemic, and it may have limited. Isn't that right, Representative?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So you had the capacity issue was an anomalous situation that exacerbated the situation. I also will tell you this, that there are schools telling people that they can't buy them at the gate, that they have to buy them online, which is not ideal for folks that, you know.
Well, that's not in our instructions to the teams, to the schools.
I understand. And it kind of just goes back to, I guess the, you know, the ongoing operations and how do we help you, you know, communicate that a little bit better. But I would like to drill further into the GoFan situation and the, so basically you're taking a playoff or football playoff tickets this year. Are they still 12, 15 for on site games?
Yes, 12 for the quarters and 15 for the semis.
So you're doing that. So if you're doing that through GoFam, it's going to be $13.40.
Yes.
Okay, and 1340, the 12, and again we'll get to this later, but I mean the $12 is divided up the way it always has been. But out of the $1.40, GoFan gets paid.
Correct.
And you're telling me in addition to that, Georgia High School gets some of that?
Yes.
Why?
Because they are our vendor.
Why do you need more money? Because people are buying a ticket online.
Well, we have to cover expenses of where we are.
What new expenses do you have because people are buying a ticket online?
Well, we don't. It's a stream of revenue that we have.
So it's a tax increase.
I
mean, this is what just, I'm going to be honest with you. I know y'all are all the ones of y'all that are on the trustees or executives may be tired of hearing this, but I don't get it. We've talked over a decade here about getting people to games in places where it's good for young people to go watch their schoolmates play. And because we put this thing in, that they, you know, the convenience fee, it's different if you have to pay GoFan. I'm still worried about how that contract and the monopoly with that, was it a, you know, is this the best case, whatever, but that's a subjective thing. But it does bother me that because now you've got a 15-year-old somewhere buying a ticket online to go, that Georgia High School needs more money. That bothers me. Because you don't have any more expenses for that. It's just a revenue stream.
Well, I think it's important that we diversify our revenue streams. Because
you have plenty of revenue, Dr. Hines. I've seen your financials.
Right, and we give it back to
I also just saw your salary increase. Somebody just texted me your salary increase.
And we give it back.
It was far greater than the 6% you gave the officials.
The what?
It was far greater than the 6% basketball officials got.
It was 3%.
Okay, then yours was far greater than the 3% basketball officials got.
No, mine was 3%. The staff
Okay,
was 3%.
is this tax? I wasn't going to, bring it up. We could talk about it offline, but since you did, so you didn't in fact go from 135 to 175.
That was the contract increase 2 years ago.
Okay, well, I mean, so, okay. Well, the individual that sent me that, you were 2 years behind. We can move on. It does bother me that we've talked for years about getting the ticket prices down for students trying to attend it's a big deal for these kids to come up with $12 or $15 to go to a playoff game. I get it if you have to rent a facility, if you have to go to the Dome or you have to go to the Georgia State Stadium, but it's a big deal in communities, all communities, for kids. If you've got 3 or 4 kids in school and big brother or big sister's playing, to come up with $36 or $48 to go, and it's just almost an insult to say you're going to charge them $1.40 convenience fee. So because Georgia High School needs to diversify their revenue stream.
Well, I didn't get to finish that train of thought. For instance, football was down, over 30% last year. Basketball was down 70% last year. If it weren't for us being able to raise money through our vendors and through different streams of revenue, then we wouldn't have been able to waive dues again for the second year and actually write all of our member schools a check that was worth 2 years worth of dues plus their portion of the catastrophic insurance. So we're not sitting hoarding any money. Once we meet our contingency, that money goes directly back to the schools.
Yeah, but it's still coming out of their students' pocket. I mean, if they weren't taking out of their students' pocket, perhaps they, have the money, the Booster Club could pay the, what is the GHSA membership? It's class-based, right?
Yes.
That's probably on the website too. We'll look.
Yes. And there are many schools that actually have a ticket price reduction when the playoffs start because they charge more in regular season than what the mandated ticket price is for playoffs. One of those is Colquitt County.
My son Watson, I've not been fortunate enough to attend the home game at Colquitt County, so I don't know that.
I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, do what?
No, I just said, he just said Colquitt County charges more for home games than they do in playoffs. I just said, I'm not aware of that. I mean, you perhaps were.
Correct, that would be correct.
That's partly due because they're having to get people to come into our state to play football with them. And they're losing money because they don't have anybody in South Georgia they can play with.
So we have gotten
I'm having the same problem, Chairman. I'm having the same problem down here with one of my Christian schools. They have to go out of town, St. Louis. They had to fly the kids down to St. Louis to get a game. Eagles Landing Christian Academy. I mean, they're barely struggling to get games. And that's the thing Sam and everybody's been talking about. This thing is not done correctly. I don't know what metrics you guys are using, but we need to come to the table and figure this thing out.
Okay. Well, I did want to keep us around to an hour, but I want to go around and we had, I mean, that sort of touched on financial. From a governance standpoint, the question was, and I'll be quick here and let the representatives and Senator Mullis finish, but the governance issue I mentioned earlier going in, it's worrisome to me that there's so much done subjectively with this reclassification and hardship that, a dozen or 18 folks really hold the future of hundreds of high schools and thousands of student athletes in their hand. I mean, you guys may not know it, but I mean, there's people that, have called, talked to somebody in the hall yesterday and, they had an issue. They didn't want to be identified because they were going to have to bring an appeal down there and they didn't want to make anybody mad. That's, if you tell me it's perception, not reality, we can talk about it, but where I come from, many times perception is reality, and that's a governance issue. I mean, for instance, how many people on your board of trustees have been on your board of trustees for over 5 years?
One of the trustees want to answer that?
I mean, I'm just asking. It's a question I don't know the answer to. I mean, you may, they turn
I
up
don't either. That's why I'm asking them.
Yeah.
Well, let me give you an example. I've been on the board of trustees for longer than 5 years. And as I say that, Chairman Martin, I am coming off of the board of trustees at the end of this year. I will no longer be president and I'm coming off of the GHSA. I also know that Jesse Cruz has been over there for over 5 years. And I think Dr. Finch, hadn't you been on there for 5 years? I'm trying to think who else has been on there for 5 years. But we have had changeover on the trustees, and there will be more changeover as we go forward with a new president being elected for next school year. So just know that change is in the making, and we've had committee members like Jesse Cruz that's retiring at the end of this year. And also Earl Etheridge, who had been on the committee for years, he's also retired. So we're having members come off of the committee and there will be change on the committee. I am not retired. My job requires time that I be on my job. So that's why I'm coming off of it.
Thank you. Thank you, Glenn. So yeah, I'd be interested to have a little more information that we could take that offline. And then just the transparency issue. I mean, we've talked about this before, Dr. Hahn, the fact that people have to come down there either for a realignment appeal or for a hardship appeal. And then they come down there and then they're, asked to leave the room while people, discuss their situation and not get to stay in the room while the discussion and the vote's going on. It, does not strike me as a transparent process and really giving due process to the individuals. I don't know that that's changed. I don't believe it has. But that had been pointed out by multiple members actually, that they had people go down there for the appeals process and felt like, well, thanks for coming. See you later. We'll let you know how it comes out. Because a bit dismissive. So again, we're over 6 minutes. I'll give Dr. Hines the last word. Let me go around the members. Representative Nelson, I mean, we've just begun here, but as we finish the beginning, Representative Nelson, did you have anything?
No, I would just hope that we continue this conversation and not drag it out 2022, 2023, 2024, because these are our children we're talking about. These are our families, and these are our coaches and our officials. Let's continue this conversation. And most of all, I would hope our actions speak louder than our words.
Thank you, Representative. Chairman Watson. Anything, Sam?
Sorry, Mr. Chairman, I couldn't get it unmuted. I probably said enough. I just hope we can get some of this stuff figured out from the reclassification and our official shortage. And, we're just, as I said earlier, we're just, we got folks calling us and hounding us, and just hope we can all work together on this to find a solution for everybody.
Thank you, Chairman. Representative Douglas?
No, I'm good, sir. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Chairman Dubnik?
No, sir, I'm good. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. And Chairman Nix, are you still with us? He may have stepped away, and I don't see Chairman Mollis. Oh, well, let me say this finally, and then I'll give Robin the last word. The thing I want us to all remember, if we can, is one of your members, it's before you took your position, but one of the members of the Board of Trustees over a decade ago, when this first came up about the Georgia high school ruling kids ineligible after they played in the U.S. Army All-Star game, because that was a non-sanctioned event, and we had to involve a legislative process to get the Board of Trustees to actually sanction an all-star event that has now become a marquee event sponsored in San Antonio by the United States Army. After we had to do legislative process to get the board's attention on that, one of the older, and by older, I mean longer tenured, not chronologically, members of the board down in Macon asked me, just like this, young man, what makes you think you have any business telling us how to run our association? And I answered him then, and I'll spread this with y'all now. The thousands of people I represent in House District 49 and the thousands, 179 of my colleagues in the House and 56 senators represent, we all have to remember that y'all play on public property using, for the most part, in very large part, public tax dollars on this infrastructure. And these kids are, these student athletes, only have the 4 years in high school. And then when we talk about, we'll try this for 2 years, if it doesn't work, we'll do something else. Remember, you burned 2 senior classes doing that. So I just want us to remember that this matters to these student athletes. It matters to the parents and the grandmas that watch them. They only get to pass through school and high school and play, one time, and that they deserve, full, open, and honest due process and transparency. I know each of y'all individually think they're getting that. I'm just telling you from the outside in, looking at this over the last 25 or 30 years, it doesn't feel that way. So with that, I'll close off. Any of the GHSA folks that want to speak, Dr. Hines, I'll leave that. That's my last word. I'll leave it to you and then we'll close off.
We appreciate the conversation, and we'll certainly talk to, our trustees and our executive committee, and we'll review everything that was done here. And, we're stuck in the middle of a reclassification process that we've got to get single A figured out. We'll just have to see how that goes, but we appreciate you guys.
Anyone else? Glenn?
Yes, Chairman Martin, I would like to say this. Thank you. I appreciate the members of the House and the Senate. I appreciate what y'all do. I also understand that the legislature and the governor runs the state of Georgia. I understand that completely. I respect that. And believe it or not, I feel like our Board of Trustees wants to make you and all citizens in the state of Georgia happy. That is our goal, and we'll work on that. Please help us. Please share your thoughts with us. I'll be most glad to listen to anything you have to say, and all of our Board of Trustees members will do the same thing. Thank you so much for what you do, and I hope you and your families have a happy Thanksgiving.
Hey, Chairman Martin?
Yeah, Chairman Nix is back. If we'll give him a second. He was gone for.
I've been in and out, and I've heard a good little bit of it. I've got a guy doing some plumbing here, so I apologize for cutting out. My observation is this, and I've been on the committee, been in there a while. There seems to be just a transparency issue. If we can figure out a way to better inform not just the schools, but the public as to what's going on. And I don't know how you do that. Sometimes you look behind the curtain and you say, oh, that's what's going on. And I think that may be an area that we just don't do it. And I know there are a lot of schools. I know the schools have representatives and the regions have representatives, but somehow the idea of what's going on back there is a mystery. And when people don't understand, that's when they get upset. And if there's anything we can do to add to that transparency, to show them there is some accountability. I've heard it called just a good old boys club at the Georgia High School Association, and they just do damn what they want to when they want to. And if you don't like it, you can lump it. And it's not the attitude you want people to have towards what you're doing. If there's any way that we can help open that curtain a little bit so people see what's going on, they have a chance to have some input, I think that would make it a whole lot better. And that's just my opinion, but I think that's the biggest issue we're working on right there is why does what happened happen?
Thank you, Chairman Nix. Well, guys, we'll let that be it. And I do want to echo Glenn's comments. I wish everybody safe and happy Thanksgiving. I know there's a whole series of playoffs going on Friday, probably some on Saturday. So we wish everybody safe travels and good luck going into that. So Don and Kurt and Stephen, Dr. Kraft, Glenn, Dr. Hines, Dr. Finch, thank you guys for taking the time to do this with us this morning, and we'll loop back with you before we get back into session and check back in, because we do want to make sure that we follow up on this. It matters. It sets the table for 2 years, and we need to understand better. So thank you very much for doing it. Appreciate you guys being able to do it over Zoom. I thought that would be better than everybody having to gather down at the Capitol today. We can be adjourned without objection unless somebody has anything else. Without objection, then we'll be adjourned. Thanks, guys.